Scott? Can you hear me? Scott. Meh. One is the loneliest number. Something, 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 something. One. I don't know the lyrics. Welcome to Unqualified Opinion, the biggest reason for my continued alcoholism. How's it going, Scott?
It's going well, Steve, and I will say touche to that because I don't think I've ever drunk. Well, it's a question about, are we drinking alone or are we not? Now,
I say we're not.
Now in the 1950s, for example, if one were to see this, they would say you're drinking alone. But I think today it's just like Steve's around the corner, even though he's, 800 miles away. I agree with you, because it sounds really sad to say I drink a whole bottle of wine by myself on a Sunday night.
It's also a great excuse for drinking on a Sunday.
It is.
Because if we were hanging out in person on a Sunday, we probably wouldn't be drinking nearly as much as we do.
Well, perhaps not.
Yeah.
I have the advantage of the time change as well. So Steve's an hour ahead of I am.
Mondays are always really rough for me.
Yeah.
So we did say in our last episode, which was 3 weeks ago, and I still haven't finished editing. I have about 10 more minutes left to edit, that we would do a live podcast, and that will be because Scott was coming to visit. However, when Scott came over, we somehow lost track of time, probably because we were super stoned, and we didn't get around to that. So this is another virtual, I don't know what you would call it, conversation that we're having. So when Scott came to visit, do you want to talk about the weed story?
Oh yeah. So
I think it's a good story.
I think it's an excellent story. So in Washington D.C., it is legal to own and grow and smoke marijuana on private property. But it's not legal to purchase it. So there's this really wonderful workaround where you buy a gift, usually very expensive gifts. So we bought rolling papers for $60, and with that gift comes a little wrapped baggie of marijuana, and that's just a gift. It's legal to gift it, so you aren't actually buying that. And
so the company is called Paperboy, and it's really just a small set of rolling paper, any rolling paper that you can buy for $2 or $3. But this rolling paper costs $64, I believe it was, and happens to have a nice gift of an eighth of weed. And when we did this, we actually went online. The payments went through PayPal, so it's not going to come up as a clear statement in your credit card, but you can just use your credit card. And then they have a GPS tracker on their delivery, for their delivery, and you can just watch while your driver comes. They come right up to the front of your door, you step out, you grab it, and you're all set. I think it took about 2 hours from when we found the site to when we got the weed. It was so easy. And I've been in DC now for 2 years, 3 years in the DC area, and I did not realize how simple it was. This is dangerous now because it's way too easy for me to get weed.
It's easier than the states where you can legally purchase weed because you don't even have to leave your house. It's
correct.
And some of the gifts, this was more of a practical gift or a practical purchase, the rolling papers. Other gifts are just a bucket of cookies, not weed cookies, just normal cookies, so that when you get high, you can eat the bucket of cookies. So, that's a little more,
That seems like a very practical gift to me.
I suppose that is also a very practical gift. More indulgent, if you will. And then it came wrapped in this little brown paper. It looks like it looks like it would have been a little shopping bag from like Victoria's Secret, like something really nice posh store, maybe like lingerie.
Oh,
I
was thinking.
It was all wrapped up.
Really?
Nice.
Okay, so I was thinking like a vegan bakery. That's what it reminded me of.
But you see where my mind is
like you go into one of those vegan bakeries and you get and it has the curly font. I don't know. You're a lot more sexual in your
I
thought
think
process
lingerie.
than
Steve thinks cupcakes.
Well, that's what the packaging reminded me of. I'm sorry my mind doesn't instantly go to lingerie when I see a small package. So, this leads into our drinks discussion for today because we're not just doing drinks. After we got the weed, we attempted to use the rolling paper, and it had been, to be fair to myself, just over 3 years since the last time I tried to roll a joint. And I did a terrible, terrible job. It was just really, really difficult. So we gave up and we ended up just making brownies. And maybe we can talk about the process of making brownies at some point, but we won't go into that right now.
Detailed.
And so now we both have a batch of these brownies, which we just throw in the freezer. And so in addition to our drinks, we're also going to be having some brownies. So we're going to see if that completely destroys the podcast and our ability to have conversations, or if it actually makes it better.
And I literally, so when I was coming back because I brought the brownies back with me to Minneapolis in my carry-on because I didn't have any checked bags, and I knew from I've done this before that the TSA doesn't look for weed, they look for bombs because they look for things that's actually going to kill people. But that said, when food sometimes looks like a bomb, especially densely packed food such as a brownie. And it's really suspicious when the brownie is wrapped in like tin foil and 4 different paper bags, or 4 different plastic bags, and then wrapped in tin foil again. I think that was very suspicious. And so I'm going to security and my bag, I'm already like slightly late for my flight, and my bag gets set aside, pulled off for an additional search. So I'm like, oh shit. And the guy comes over and he's looking at it and he pulls out the bag with the brownies in it. And I'm like, oh, I'm really screwed now. Because it's illegal.
That is
terrifying. It's a federal crime, I believe, to transport marijuana across state lines.
This was at Reagan?
It was at BWI.
Man. Okay, so that's not.
So bad because it was in Virginia. Yeah, so I was in Maryland.
That would be really bad.
And the guy looks at him and, you know, he takes a little bomb testing strip and swaps it down. And of course, there's nothing because it's not a bomb. And he's like, oh, is this your lunch? And I'm like, yep, that's my lunch. It's like, here you go. Have a nice day.
Wow. My God, I can't imagine going through that process. Now, here's a question. Were you high when you went through that process?
No, I was not. I was stone cold sober.
I'm like,
God. Well, I was like, there's no option. I can either like start freaking out, which will make them more suspicious, or like tell them they can throw it away, which also probably would make them suspicious, or just act like it's completely normal. And
you have to just go with the normal route. There's no other option.
There's no other option. And then, oh, yeah, I completely forgot I wrapped all that up so deliberately and put it in my backpack.
Doesn't everybody wrap up their lunch in 5 pieces of aluminum foil? Isn't that normal?
No. It's like, it's a very messy lunch. It's a very messy lunch.
It's actually chili.
It's chili.
I couldn't find a container. So I just wrapped it up in foil.
Yeah, my seatmates really love me. But yeah, that was one of the terrifying moments of air travel for me. But anyway,
yeah. All right. Why don't we talk about drinks? Scott, what do you have?
I'm gonna put down my avocado toast and look at the bottle. Actually,
fucking millennial.
I know. I even sprinkled a little seasoning on there. So this is Tempranillo. I hope our friend who goes unnamed never listens to this, because this is a bottle he gave me as a housewarming gift. He said, oh, it can age for like 2 to 3 years. And I'm like, oh, can it now?
Can I open it in a month?
Can I open it in next week? Which I happened to do when I had a girl over, and it was my only bottle of liquor, of alcohol. So I thought, well, I'm going to open that because I'm not sitting here sober. It didn't have the effect I was hoping for, but mostly because we didn't drink the whole thing. But it's not as... I don't know what a good wine really tastes like. So I'm like, I don't know. Does it taste good? I like it. Is it better than like a $10 bottle of wine? No. Not
Do
mine.
you know what the price tag on that is?
It doesn't have a price tag on it. But
Of course not, but
he has quite a...
Do you know what the price
I
is?
could look it up. I haven't looked it up yet. It looks nice. It looks like it costs probably over 20, well over 20. So not extremely expensive, but no, I would never buy that.
yeah, a
myself.
wine that you can age is definitely going to be upwards of $50, right? Probably more.
I don't want to look at it because I'll feel guilty.
I'm really curious. Can you look it up?
No, look it up right now. While I do that, tell me what you're doing.
I am doing the opposite of classy. And a few weeks ago, when Scott came to visit, we had a big party. We had a bunch of leftover beers, and I'm making my way through the beers. So today, I'm drinking some Miller Lite. I have 2 bottles, or 2 cans next to me right now. I finished the other 4 over the week. And yeah, it's lying right on the can. It says light, a fine Pilsner. I don't know. Fine is a strong word. I don't know if I'd give it a fine. But you know what? It goes down and it gets me a little bit buzzed.
So
We are also having some of those brownies that we made.
wait, didn't
And
you already
I
say
just
that?
had... What?
You already said that, didn't you? Or no?
Oh, did I? I don't know. We'll see how this goes.
This is gonna be interesting.
Who knows?
We just repeat ourselves for an hour.
Yeah, and Scott, you had a good amount. You said you had enough that you will definitely get pretty high, but not to the point that you'll be dysfunctional.
Right.
And I had about 50% on top of that. So we'll see what happens.
I looked it up.
Yeah.
It's only $25. That makes me feel better.
Oh, yeah, that's not bad at all. That's not bad.
Yeah.
$25 bottle of wine. You can finish that in a couple sittings. It's fine. Okay, so yeah, Scott, do you want to talk about our topic?
So this week we're going to talk about dating. Dating for our age demographic, which is late 20s, 28. We're both 28. Actually, we both just turned 28, more or less, in the last month, and we're going to talk about our personal experiences or lack thereof. It could be a very short conversation.
It would be if we're only talking about my
For
experience.
some of us. For some of us. You have to go long back in the history books to find some games there. But I think the question is, Steve was actually the one who suggested this topic. I've been very bad at suggesting topics because I think very abstractly about topics. But Steve says this. So my question, Steve, is why do you want to talk about this? Is it because of your current situation, which I won't say anything more about?
Oh, that's interesting. That's a good question. Currently, I'm not sure what the term is. Seeing someone casually, non-exclusively.
Friends with benefits? No, you're not a friend though.
Yeah,
Sort of.
we'll touch back on this.
Okay. This
Down
gets
the line,
complicated,
sure.
doesn't it?
Well, no, I'm really curious about the whole situation of labels and what kind of weight people put into that, and I want to get your take on it. But no, the reason I was interested in this is because I think that the realm of dating for people in our age demographic and younger has dramatically shifted with the introduction of dating apps. I personally have never used a dating app before, but I also don't have a lot of experience dating in general. So I'm curious to hear from Scott how things have changed and how things are different with or without dating apps. And that was the primary impetus for this, really.
So I was in a relationship for 3.5 years during undergraduate. And so that kind of precluded dating for a large chunk of my undergraduate career, which is when people have a lot of sexual experiences, and that was not me. Before that, the only other woman I'd ever been with was actually someone. She was close to, she was like 28, and I was like, oh my god, that's so old. And no, I'm 28. And I'm like, no, it's not. And I was a freshman in undergrad, in undergrad, so I would have been what, 28, 19, something like that. So back then I was like, oh my god, this 28-year-old, she's so mature and knows everything. And we were at a summer job and we just met each other, and things went from there. And then my 3.5-year relationship, and then that's when I really started using dating apps after that. And I don't know, I have mixed feelings. I think there are some dating apps that are very, they're more specific audiences. And mostly that's like, I'm bi, we can talk more about that, but Grindr, there's other sites, like if you're into more kinks, if you're, bisexual, there's sites for, like, if you want to have a threesome or things like that. There's a significant, like, online community of people who aren't straight, essentially. So I had the advantage of kind of those specific options. I used Tinder and Bumble and those things, and that's a lot harder because you're not in like a pool of kind of more like-minded people. It's everyone. And I think when Tinder first came out, it was really meant to be more for hooking up. And people still use it for that. I've used it for that before. But it's more and more
harder to find people with those same values.
Yeah, who just like want a casual thing. But more and more it's relationship oriented. And Bumble's very much relationship, and the other ones are very much more relationship oriented. So I guess kind of the bottom line is, unless it's part of a discrete group, I really hate them. It's a huge waste of time.
Why do you say it's a huge waste of time?
Because you get into these. So I'm an introvert, and I have to like think more intentionally about conversations. So when I get into these conversations, if I eventually match with a girl, which takes a long time, because the way men and women use dating apps, like men like say yes to everybody. They don't even look at the screen. I mean, because like, if you're horny, you're like, I could do it like a 5 and up. And most people like 5s and up if you squint enough. And so you just like swipe really fast on the screen, and with enough alcohol. And then you call your matches afterwards. So it's sort of like fishing. You throw your net in and you catch a bunch of random ass fish.
Yeah, cast a wide net.
Net, and then you throw away the ones that you don't like back into the ocean. But once you're left, I mean, maybe you spend 10 minutes doing it, 5 minutes doing that, and maybe you have 20, 25 matches. But then when you like throw all the ones away that you don't really like, you're left with like 2, and then you message them and they don't respond. So it's like, so there's a huge I mean, let's get into that later, but like ghosting is a really big issue on dating apps.
What's ghosting? Just not responding?
Just not responding. So I would text, we're having a conversation, and then they just stop. And I've done this too.
Oh, after the conversation's already started?
Yeah.
You feel like it's just not worth it anymore? I'm tired of this?
Yeah. And both sides do it. And so they just stop, or something else came up in their life, or they met someone else and they just met. And that is why I think dating apps, especially those that are like just for a very wide audience, are, because again, there's different types, but they're not great for social skills because.
But don't you meet up most predominantly through dating apps with people now? Don't you find people to hook up with mostly through dating apps now, or do you still do that in person?
But that's the problem. Like I don't feel like I can do it in person.
Why not?
I don't know, because I've never done it. And I think that's
What are you talking about? You've
Oh, wait.
dated before dating apps exist.
Well, yeah, but that was through. I guess that was through mutual relationships or like happenstance. I didn't go to a bar and try to pick up a girl. Like, which actually is.
Yeah, that's a really hard thing to do. It's really, really hard. It's really nerve-wracking.
It is nerve-wracking. And actually, I was looking at these numbers the other day, and I can't remember what exactly they displayed, but the general emphasis of this chart was that people, let me back up. It was a time series, so it was like from the 1980s to today, and it showed how the trend of how people met, and then married, like how married couples met. And of course, there was no such thing as the internet, up to the 90s. Dating apps didn't really come out until, well after 2000. And then most of it is like maybe at a bar, but mostly through work or mutual connections is how most people meet their significant other. By a significant majority. And then when you got to the launch of dating apps and kind of as more and more people started using those, the number of people meeting in the bars essentially just stopped. It doesn't exist anymore practically. The number of through mutual connections and mutual friends that also dipped, and coworkers also significantly dipped as well. And I don't know. There's actually quite a bit of research around this because it's such a huge social phenomena. But I think a part of it is because people feel like, if I don't have to put myself out there at all, I can just stay on my screen on my phone, and it could be, I can do it in bed in my underwear. There's so little friction associated with it that we've lost the skills to actually, and the confidence and even the acceptance to do this in person. Now that's a big sweeping statement.
The barrier to entry is so low now. You need a phone and a few pictures and about 30 minutes of time to set up an account. And then you're spending your time judging people on superficial characteristics without ever having met them and without ever having engaged with them to see if you have chemistry or anything relatable, right? And so it doesn't surprise me that something like ghosting happens frequently, or if you have the shopping cart mentality that comes with an app like Twitter, or I'm guessing a little bit less with Grindr because
Twitter? You mean
more,
Tinder?
Tinder. Sorry, Twitter.
Steve really is new to this, people. I'm sorry.
Yes, that's the whole point of this episode.
Twitter, Tinder, whatever.
Tinder. I don't know what I'm talking about. All these kids these days. Just get off my lawn.
This is funny because
newfangled
Steve,
social media.
I am an absolute Luddite compared to Steve, except in this area.
But what I was saying is this whole shopping cart mentality that you have with something like Tinder, which I got right this time, right? Just makes it so much easier to prioritize instant gratification. So it's no wonder to me that you get all of these issues, and someone like you, Scott, would be frustrated jumping into this realm. And I think it just promotes this mentality that you can see people as objects, and you can just promote superficial characteristics, and that there isn't any weight to a lot of these interactions that you have, I'm guessing.
The funniest thing is that I think is no one likes Tinder. I have never, ever.
So it's just that everybody uses it because everybody else uses it?
Yeah.
It's like Facebook.
Well, and no one likes any. If you ask people if they like dating apps, they will say no. I have never, ever, ever found someone who said they like dating apps.
Well, isn't it such a shame that now that's the standard? I feel like that's the standard. I feel like I'm some kind of anomaly having never been on a dating app.
You are.
Because I'm under 50, single, and haven't been on a dating app, and that's just unheard of these days.
I did try to sit down with you and make you do it, and the mere fact of like installing it and then finding pictures was like too much for you, and you're like, I can't do this anymore. And
the level of effort was too high.
We spent 2 minutes.
Yeah, so just to be very clear, it's not that I'm taking a moralistic stance and I believe that I'm just going to be a better person for it. I'm just so lazy I can't even get one.
I don't know. I think you have some sort of like mental block against them. You just don't understand them.
No, really, here's what it is.
No.
Here's what it is. I really hate messaging people. I hate the back and forth of it. I typically use texting or any kind of online communications to get a job done or to schedule something, right? And so the whole notion of just finding people to match with and then spending so much time just conversing with them over text seems stupid to me.
Stupid.
Because if I was on there, I would probably message and say, hey, you look really cute, or something is interesting in your profile. And then if they respond back, I'd be like, want to grab a drink? And I'm pretty sure that would never work.
It rarely works. And then you have to because some of them have nothing in their profile. So, which is fine. If they're hot, I'm going to swipe them on regardless of whether they have something in their profile or not. So what they write there doesn't really matter. Just about the appearances. It is, Steve. Come on. No, I will take, never mind. No, I completely agree with myself. Is that, what the hell am I supposed to say to you now? How dumb of a conversation do you have to come up with to have a conversation with someone who the only thing you know about them is that they look good in a bikini? That's not, the conversation can't be about that. What the fuck else do you talk about the weather?
So here's a question. Can it be about that? What would happen if I message her and say, hey, you look great in that bikini?
See,
she put the picture up there because she thinks she looks good, and she wants guys to think that she looks good, right?
That's true.
You'll probably lose out on about 99% of Tinder matches if you did that strategy. That's true.
I've actually started using it differently. I did just I checked my profile as one that suggests I'm looking for strings attached sex,
Mm-hmm.
and you get matches with people, and it's nice because it's okay, you explained, and then maybe this is the tip to using dating apps. You have to be very explicit about what you're looking for. Now maybe you'll get less matches, but then those that you do connect with, already that that's what they're looking for.
But that's so much better because they're going to be filtered out anyway. You might as well filter people out in the early end of the pipeline rather than having to invest more time into it. So that's great.
Right. And then you can you don't, I don't know. It's hard to just ask right out if you want to go to a bar. Women seem to like a little bit of back and forth at first.
Yeah, to make sure you're not a psychopath.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you say, do you want to go to the bar? And then they say yes. So, that works, but generally, maybe I will find a relationship out of that. But if I'm looking for a relationship, that's not quite.
Where would you look for a relationship?
I have a particular person in mind.
That was through work. The podcast?
That was through work. Huh?
Do they listen to the podcast?
She is very adamant that she wants to listen to the podcast.
I think it's very clear who that is now. And so because of that, she will never be able to listen to the podcast.
It's a girl I met through work, and yeah, but not complicated, just long, drawn out.
What do you think about meeting people through work?
Well, Steve, both you and I have done that, and I managed to have sex make out in the stairwell. I don't think
it would have been very
stage.
impressive if you guys had sex in the stairwell.
We did not have sex in the stairwell. We did make out, and there was some under the shirt stuff. I think it's fine. I am a libertine when it comes to sex relationships. You know what? If you can't keep it in your pants at work and be civil to someone you're having sex with, then you need to grow up. That's my mentality. You're all adults. You know what you're doing. You're gonna do it. You have fun. Woohoo.
Yeah, I agree. I guess the other part of that question though is, do you think that work is a good place to meet people that you could potentially have relationships with.
Steve, I do not think you should have a relationship with someone else who does programming. Let me just say that. So I don't think you should date someone from your work.
I'm not. Wait, why do you say that? First off,
I think it would be too much. You need more variety in your life.
You shouldn't date someone in the same occupation as you.
I think that's a bad, unless you're like both preeminent professors on your own terms.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are relationships that happen like that. I don't think you should date someone who's in a similar field with you, because if you're a competitive person, that's not, if you know too much about their work, it opens up a whole nother line of like inquiry and interest and critique. And I, in a relationship, would prefer to keep, if I am the expert in my work, you don't know what I do, that's my thing. And I like that.
Interesting. So I want to come back to this just to wrap up the dating people work thing. My perspective on that is that for as long as possible, you should try to keep it as casual as possible. Because especially if you work together with each other, having investment into someone who you work with leads to emotional attachment and can make the fallout a lot worse. If you can keep it as casual as possible, then if things end, because you never know what's going to happen in the future, you can still stay civil and professional. So just to put a bow on that's kind of my thought on that. But this idea of finding someone who is more or less within the same profession as you. So, of all the people that you've dated, have you dated anyone in a similar profession as you?
Mm-hmm.
And how did that go?
Not good.
Not good. Why not?
I'm a very competitive person, and she was also an extremely successful person, and I did not like that.
So it was because it was your own ego.
Yes.
Okay. You didn't like that. Why?
Because she beat me in certain instances, and I don't like to lose, Steve, as you know.
Yeah. Oh, so that's why you say you shouldn't date someone. Don't worry, that wouldn't affect me because I never lose.
No. So. That wasn't why, though. I think it's also really important to have someone who brings a very different perspective to a relationship. And one of the biggest foundations for your perspective is your career. And I am in the kind of position I don't have a career. I don't have a specific line of work. But if I were like in HR, for example, I would want to date someone like biophysics. And it just expands your universe so much to get that outside perspective, and that you learn something you would never even dream of learning about and experiencing. I think, I think relationships need diversity, and I think if two people are in the same career, it could get very competitive, cutthroat, and also you are lacking a lot of diversity and growth opportunities.
I think I agree with you when it comes to the importance of having a diversity of thought processes. That doesn't necessarily mean you can't be in the same career and not have different opinions, different interests outside of work. So I'm not 100% with you there, but I see what you're saying, and I do think that diversity of opinion is important, and that a lot of toxic relationships probably stem from people being too similar to each other. Yeah, I see what you're saying there. So before we go any further, we should probably discuss our own dating.
I was just going to say, Steve, you've been beating around that bush.
Oh, you want me to
Yes.
Okay, yes. So the weed's starting to kick in, and it's difficult to concentrate.
Talk about your current situation.
So I'll back up and start from college. So in college, unlike Scott, I wasn't in one long relationship. I had a myriad of hookups and a few relationships, none of which lasted longer than, I say, 5 or 6 months, and none of which really got that serious. Usually I would be the one to end it at a certain point, around 3 to 5 months, usually because I'm bored or busy. Not great behavior. And then other people I would hook up with, but it didn't go crazy. I wasn't hooking up with a lot of people. It was just, occasional here and there. And then after college, I went to grad school in Minnesota, and that just kind of continued, just occasionally hooking up with people. And then I moved to DC, and I was very focused on work and also a very lazy person. And then suddenly 2.5 years went by and I hadn't slept with anyone. Which Scott really wants me to put on the record.
I love it.
It's shoving my face. Great. Thank you. I really hope none of my friends listen to this podcast.
Hey now.
So, which was...
You're okay.
Once you go a year and you have a lot of other things that you're focused on, the wall to surmount to get back into the game is just pretty large.
How much porn did you watch?
Not that much.
Really?
I'd probably jerk off like 4 times a week at most. At most. Sometimes 2 to 3. So, I don't think that's a lot. I don't know. But I've always been like that regardless of whether I'm hooking up with people or not. It's always around that. Yeah. And so recently I started hooking up with someone at work who sits very close to me, literally
behind him,
right behind me, in an open office plan. So that's fun, and also something that I really don't want to have, people who I work with here. So hope I should make sure that no one knows the name of this podcast. No one's gonna listen this far into that.
No one's gonna. No. Well, and episode 10. They'd have to start with 1 through 9 first. And then,
who sequentially listens to a podcast?
Well, yeah, like there's some thematic build here. Not like going
we didn't hear Scott's weather update. What are we doing? We're losing out on consistency here.
Oh my god. Well, the weather's boring, and that's why there was no update. It's warm.
So anyway, I've been I don't know, what's the right word? Dating this hooking up with?
Dating. Now, we have to define dating, of course, but we don't have to do that now. But dating, in my opinion, is like going out and doing things that are not sexual together alone.
Okay, so
you don't do that.
Hooking up,
right?
So we started hooking up maybe a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months. I don't think it's been that long.
Mm-mm. Maybe it's probably about a month and a half.
Yeah, so very recent. And my goal, like I said earlier about work relationships, is to keep it as casual as possible. I think that's strategically the right choice. One, as someone who's busy and in their 20s, and I think we can get into this, I have no intention of getting into an actual relationship for at least a few years. And so that's another topic in terms of whether it's worth getting into relationships. But
I have to say, Steve, your goal, if I were to put it another way, is to have as much sex on your terms with no strings attached.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah, that kind of sums it up perfectly.
Is she horny and you're not?
You're saying that like that's a bad thing. Why are you saying it like that's a bad thing?
What if she is horny and you're not? It's just like, no. Go.
No, that's not how I am at all. And to get back to your notion of whether or not we're dating, we do things outside of come back to my apartment and have sex, which is most of what we do. But we have done other things. We go out, we get dinner. We went to a stand-up thing once. So.
Oh, maybe you are. Steve, you're going down. You're getting down the slippery slope.
Is it though? So here's a question.
2 weeks ago you were like, I'm not no, absolutely, it's a slippery slope.
No,
I'm
no.
not doing that.
No. What I'm trying to say
Okay, go on.
is it a slippery slope though? I mean, if just because you're going out, you're doing activities and you're hanging out and it's a good time, does that necessitate that you're ending up in some kind of exclusivity realm? Like,
Well,
is that?
But if she wants to, now maybe she doesn't. I don't know.
If she wants to, then what?
Well, then I think it would be Dane. It would be if that's not what you're interested, because every time you do something non-sexual and she's interested in being in a relationship, she thinks, oh, maybe we are in a relationship. Maybe we're getting in going that direction. And then when you want to end things.
Yeah, but I just enjoy hanging out with her.
But then if you try to end things and like, I don't want to have sex with you anymore, would you go back to being civil friends? Maybe. I mean, if she's, you know, and
why would I want to stop having sex? I don't understand.
Because you find someone more attractive.
So?
Well,
so why would I want to?
Well, Steve, how much sex can you have with two people? How periodic does it have to be?
Yeah, that is true. I have other things going on.
You do have a life.
Quite a time investment.
I don't know.
But I mean, somewhere within the realm of 5 or 6 women, I think is totally doable.
At the same. Jeez.
I'm kidding.
You're tested for STIs every week.
What are your thoughts on dating multiple women?
Well,
multiple people.
I am sensitive. Well, I think because I'm bi, I'm like more sensitive to STIs than other people, and
also because you go around having sex rampantly. So
I do not have sex rampantly.
Oh, okay. So just for the record, Scott, how many people have you hooked up with in the last 3 months? Can you count them?
Only 2.
Do you have enough fingers?
Only 2.
Only 2.
Really? I told you I'm not.
Huh.
I'm trying to see women now, and they're a lot more difficult and time consuming than men. And sleeping with men, yeah, you can sleep with like 20 people in a month if you wanted to. Like, it's very easy to do that. You could have 20 in a night.
All at once?
Sure. You could arrange that.
What a good app idea! You can just set up a group orgy.
There is. Actually, on Grindr,
there already is.
On Grindr,
obviously
you can make groups on Grindr.
Of course.
Group chats.
Yeah, I'm dumb for even thinking that someone could already build that.
I don't know. What was your question? How many? So I don't that much. What was your question for me?
Oh no, I'm high as fuck.
Me too.
So what are your thoughts on when it's on well in terms of right now? Are you looking for something casual versus long term relationship?
So I'm in a kind of interesting position, I think. So I am bi. I've kind of lost interest in men for the time being. It comes and goes, but I haven't been interested in actually sleeping with a guy for probably half a year now. I've done it because it's easy.
Many times,
but not as much of an interest now. Excuse me.
Do you know why that is?
I don't. One, women take better. Okay, couple reasons. Women take better care of themselves, even if it's a very fit guy. Like, women are just more put together. And I like that.
They're also more conscious.
And they're more conscious of it. So I like it. Like, if you were to compare, like, how good your breath is, women have it much more than men do. Mm-hmm. On average. And in my experience. So there's things like that. So it's kind of like that. That would be one. 2, too much body hair. Not a fan of a lot of body hair. 3, men are pigs.
These are all the same thing. All of your
All
numbers
three of
1, 2, and 3 all come down to the same thing. Men are gross.
men are gross. They're gross physically and mentally. And I'm like not that and just the ease. Also, the ease of having sex is it's easy with both, but it's much easier with women because it's physiologically meant to do that. And
Yeah.
so that's another thing. Like this just takes a lot of thinking out of it. And just socially, it is still more acceptable to be with a woman. And it's like, that's not something I'm going to completely rule out. It just makes life easier. So all of those reasons, and I also have this really cute girl that I'm slowly, methodically
tell me about that.
going after.
Tell me about that.
I don't know, Steve. It's so embarrassing. I'm such a high schooler with.
Oh,
with
you
this.
made me talk about
Such a
my
high
situation.
schooler. It's not a situation. We've done nothing. So, but so I asked her like, I don't know, 3 months ago if she would be interested in going on actually a date.
Start with who she, like how you guys know each other.
Yeah, so I actually, the first time I saw her, I was interviewing her for my replacement position. And I saw her,
Ooh.
and I was like, I remember first seeing her. And I remember what she was wearing and her makeup. And I'm like,
It was love at first sight.
it was love for I'm like, you're really hot. And you're my type. And then I got to know her, and actually afterwards, after the interview, because I don't try to show these things to my face at all, especially during an interview. My coworker who was interviewing with me, she's like, "You really thought she was hot, didn't you?" And I was like, "What?" And I
Really?
did. And she said, "You were paying a lot more attention to what she was saying than what other people were saying."
Huh.
Oh, okay. I'm glad you could tell that. And so I worked with her and got to know her. She's a fun person. First thing I was like, okay, we could click. Is I said I took the train down by myself to a town south, the Amtrak down to a town south of me with my bike. And when a bike ride came back on the Amtrak, and I told her that to her. And she's like, "Oh my God, I love trains. I always go ride and travel by myself. And just, ride trains and travel by myself to different countries." And I'm like, you are as independent as I am, and I love that. And then, I don't know, she dated multiple people. We fell out of touch for a little bit, and we started texting recently, in the last year, and we had some like casual drinks with coworkers, just hanging out. And like more and more, we just like hang out a lot on one-on-one. Like yesterday we went and, went to the museum and went to an art exhibit together and then went out to dinner afterwards. And then she came back to my place. This was last night. And this is what I'm so confused. Because I asked her once if she wanted to go on a date, and she said, I just got a relationship, not right now. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to just wait, for a couple months. And we're sitting on my couch, and it was everything up to that point had been quite platonic. And we were facing on our couch, and like a little bit of footsie. And I'm like, okay, one, I have to get up tomorrow really early, and she had to go. So I'm like, let's not encourage that right now, because we literally have to go.
So you shut it down?
I didn't progress it. I didn't progress it. And I don't know if I think I should have. I
think it was very important that you do that. Yeah. So first off, I want to say that I did not know how much you were interested in her. I didn't realize that until we were talking about it on our podcast, open to everyone in the public, while really stoned. I didn't realize that. No, because it was really clear the way that you were talking that you're actually interested.
I am actually interested.
In a way that's not a casual fling. It isn't a hookup. It's you want to actually date her because you think that as a person she's someone that you connect with.
Yes.
So, congrats on that. Even having that feeling, I think is really great. Even if it doesn't happen. And I think that the whole does she like me? Does she not like me? And then the progression thing is like a cute romantic thing from a bygone era, which is kind of nice, But here's the thing: the problem is that things never progressed because you became friends first without progressing the sexual side of things, right? So if you're meeting someone within the first 2 to 3 encounters, you have to make some kind of sexual advance. Otherwise, so think about this for women, right? Women are constantly berated by men's attention all the time. All right, let's talk just within the heterosexual realm for now, just to simplify things, and say women are constantly sought after for men's attention. So women have to do a really good job of screening and figuring out where people lie within that whole social net of people. And one of the ways that happens is by figuring out, is this guy making a sexual advance? Is this someone who sees me as a potential suitor? And then also, if they are interested somewhat, when I reciprocate, how do they respond? Is that something that's attractive to me? And the thing is, you were so interested in her that you just kind of didn't do that part.
No, the problem was
So she saw no reciprocation. All right, he's just a friend, right? Or maybe you failed a shit test. I don't know.
No, what I think was the problem.
But wait.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I'm culpable.
What happened recently is that she tested the waters again by playing footsie with you. And again, it's really important that you progress the sexual side as well as the comfort side, right, in tandem. And instead of doing that, you shut it down.
I didn't shut it down.
Not to be a dick or anything. But that's going to give her the impression that you just want to be friends.
It was probably me who started it. So, and then I just didn't progress it. It's fine, but yes, I probably should have. I should have. I won't say probably, I should have. I will say I was her boss for a year, her quasi-boss at Hub.
That's even better. Yeah,
well,
even better.
No, because then afterwards, like, I was still working, and we were still, like, work colleagues. Oh, fuck. Yeah.
What do you mean you're work colleagues? You don't work together.
Well, we did.
Yeah, but you don't anymore.
No, never mind. You're right. I give up. And she is, I don't know. I just need to go for it.
I think you just need to go for it. But when you say go for it, I hope you don't mean just straight up asking her on a date.
No.
That's not going to work.
Well, because the things that we go on are dates. I mean, they're not dates because
they are, but if you're not making sexual progression in those dates, then it no longer seems like a date and you're friend zoned again, right? So you can't just spend the time but do it platonically and think that that's actually helping, because that's actually hurting your chances because you're being more squarely set as a reliable friend.
I don't think with my dick, I think with my brain. And I overthink everything.
Yeah, I do the same thing. Hey, I just went 2.5 years without sleeping with anyone.
Well, Steven's advice is good. It's good. I tend to overthink everything.
I'm saying this as someone who runs into the exact same thing. And if I'm honest about this current setup, I mean, it's a terrible idea to be dating someone I work with, and I probably shouldn't have gone for it. But, you know, I just kind of figured, you know, see what happens. And maybe something good will come out of it. And sometimes you just have to lean into the whole game of it, because it is a game.
It is a
right?
game.
It's supposed to be a game, and it's supposed to be fun, right? The whole, oh, are you interested in me? How much do I convey, and how far do I progress this, and what's appropriate, and then when do I come back? Because there's like a show of who wants it more dominance, and so you have to play that too. And that whole dynamic, if you want to get into the dating scene, in my opinion, SOG is completely ignorant. So maybe this is just
completely unqualified to be talking about.
Yeah, so unqualified about this topic. But that game, you have to own it, and you have to find it fun, like genuinely. Like if you want a higher success rate, like you have to actually find it fun and enjoy doing it. I think.
I will say that
that's why
I have not pursued a lot of women, but those I have a 100% success rate with eventually.
How long is the longest?
Decades. No, I'm joking. I play a long game.
I hope not decades, considering how old you are.
Yeah, I know. Decade from 28 is not happy. I don't know. I completely forgot what I was talking about.
Your success rate.
Success rate. Well, it was, but yeah, I still don't know what I was talking about. Well, no, that was a tangent off of a point I was making about something else. I don't know. Okay, let's just move on.
I'm not sure if I should edit this part or just leave it in.
Okay, let's just.
The decisions to make.
Let's just stop and movement. I want to talk about your question earlier. Are you looking? Why or why not would you be interested in looking for a relationship now?
Oh my God! Thank God you brought that up. I forgot that was the question.
And then we went on this, and then we're back.
Yeah, now we're back.
Now we're back.
It's a full circle.
I did a circle motion with my hands. I realized can't see that. And you go.
All right, so when would I be interested in?
When or why? When or why?
Actual committed relationship.
Yeah, five.
When and why?
How many years?
So I think those are two different things. The first one, when, and I'm saying this now, understanding that all of my opinions are subject to change, and I might end up saying something different in the future. I mean, in our workout episode, I said I work out with weights, and now I use 0 weights and only use bands and bars.
Except when you're doing legs.
Anyway, except during legs. That's another podcast. We'll do workout round 2. So anyway, my thought is right now, given where I'm at in my career and where I'm at age-wise, so I'm 28, I'm a software engineer, I'm trying to continue to progress in my career, I'm working at a promising company, I have side projects in a side company, I have a lot of things that I'm very focused on, and I don't think that I have or want to commit to any kind of relationship at this moment, right? Especially at 28, when I'm still really focused on how far can I take my career right now as someone who has the time to be able to invest in that, right? And with the relationship, especially if you have a family, like, it's going to be really hard to do.
You're talking about family.
Right? No. I'm not talking necessarily about family. I'm just saying in general when you have commitments, right? So family is the extreme, but even if you're in a committed relationship, that still takes up a lot of time, and that's not something I'm willing to spend a good amount of my time on, the amount of time necessary to make that happen, because I'd rather spend it on career progression and maintaining current friendships. Mm-hmm. So there's that, right? Just right now, I don't think it's necessarily a good idea. Now, of course, there's always a cost-benefit assessment of what the most valuable use of time is, and that's the current one that I have in my head. That's subject to change. But so in terms of when I would be interested in that, when I feel like my career is more stable, I have a better sense of what I want to do for a longer period of time, when I've determined where I want to end up. Anyway, sorry, I blanked. Then that would be something that I would be interested in exploring. And I know that seems extreme, right? Because a lot of people would just say, it's just a relationship, man. Like, just, like, commit to a relationship and just do that for a little bit and see what happens. But time is valuable. Time is precious. That emotional investment is a lot. So I think it's kind of important to just set strong boundaries. So that's part of it for me. In terms of
why,
who or why,
I didn't ask the who question. But you could answer the who question if you have that much foresight.
No. I meant in terms of who, in terms of what kind of person.
What kind of person?
Yeah. I am having a hard time coming up with an answer.
Well, I know the physical attributes.
Right now.
She's very petite, thin, medium-sized boobs, cute face. That's... Did I just describe the physical attributes? And a nice butt.
Yeah.
And nice abs.
Yeah, like thin.
Yeah.
Someone who's thin.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much exactly it. You got it down to a T. Oh, so well,
I
Scott.
do.
In terms of personal attributes, so like personality attributes, someone who is ambitious, career oriented, not career oriented in a myopic fashion, but just passionate about what they do and cares about that and is trying to advance themselves. Someone who prioritizes health and exercise, most importantly. Uh, and then someone who has some hobby that they're passionate about.
What about the
That's
mental
outside.
characteristics?
Mental characteristics. How do you mean? In terms of belief systems?
No,
Is
of
that
like
what you mean? Or in
how.
terms of intelligence level?
No, no, no.
Smart.
Yes, well, that's a given. But in terms of like how would they interact with you? Because most of your time.
Oh no, yeah, no. I actually know what you mean. Someone who is very dynamic and extroverted. Actually,
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah.
To counteract my own introversion, to a bit, because I'm mostly introverted, except when I go to parties in which I turn the dial up to 11.
He does go to 11.
Yeah, I definitely do. So outside of that, I'm pretty introverted, and I also have a tendency to end up just being by myself a lot and just being in my own head, and so having someone who counteracts some of that would be important too. Yeah.
Now, you raise an interesting, and I think we've talked about this before, but the idea of waiting for the right time or an appropriate time. I completely, I don't believe in that anymore.
Really?
I don't. Because
you believe in running blindly into relationships to just see what happens?
There's never going to be the perfect, because you said when you are more secure in your job. Steve, I know you will never feel settled.
That's probably true.
You always be somewhere like, oh, now this is easy. What else can I do? What is that guy doing over there? He has more influence than I do. I want to be there. And it'll keep going. And you'll keep going.
Yeah.
So and that could be, you could be in your 70s and still be going and be like, I want to be the CEO of that company. And and then maybe president. No, I'm joking about that.
No, we discussed
he would
presidency.
Not.
That would not be a good idea for me.
Steve could not be, and
I am very corruptible, as it were. I'm too corruptible for that position. You heard it here first.
Oh, well, I don't know if anymore. But no, I guess what I'm saying is that you can keep setting these like arbitrary goalposts in your mind, but you have no idea what the reality is going to look like when you get there. That may not be settled for you when you arrive at that point. Like, I remember when I was like 6 or 7 thinking, how much my parents made, I would be happy with like a career that made $70,000. I now make $70,000. And I'm like,
you want more?
That's not enough.
Yeah.
All right. So it's not, and I just think, and that's like why I bought the house. Like, I could wait for the right time. The market isn't great right now. Maybe I don't want to live in the Minneapolis for the rest of my life. Then I'm like, you are an investor. You like to buy and hold. You have the money to do it. You can keep waiting, but there's never going to be that perfect time. And it's like, generally everything stacks up. If you write all the pluses and minuses down at that very moment in time, and you consider that there isn't going to be that perfect state, so there's really no you aren't losing anything by waiting. Mm-hmm. It's like, do it. Mm-hmm. And I don't regret it. And it's like, so if a relationship comes to me, yeah, sure, I may not want to be in Minneapolis my whole life. I want to rent this place in a couple of years and move somewhere. But I don't know what it's going to be like at that point. Like, maybe, who knows where I'll be? Maybe I'll be dead. I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's true. Maybe what I'm doing is just avoiding change. Maybe that's kind of what it is. I don't know.
But I think if you really don't want, regardless of where you think, like, you feel like you're going to settle somewhere, regardless of that, if you don't feel like you should be in a relationship right now, obviously, there's, like, a lot of reasons not to be.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe this really casual thing will eventually become a relationship. Maybe I'll be tricked into it.
I have no interest in being in a relationship.
I'll fall into a relationship and be like, what the fuck happened here? Wait, I need to run to the bathroom and grab another drink. Give me a second. I'm sorry, I really have to pee. So.
Okay, yeah.
All right, Scott. I know I'm way too high because I think I committed the most terrible sin ever. And
Oh,
of all the
fuck.
embarrassing things we've said in this podcast, I think this is going to be the worst. So
Okay.
I don't know what I was thinking, and I don't know how this happened. But here's what happened. I had this 12-year Glenlivet, right, which I poured out, and then I realized at the end of the bottle there wasn't enough to get as much whiskey as I wanted. So I took Bullet Bourbon and I mixed that with it, which is already bad because what a waste of really good Glenlivet to mix it with some fucking Bullet Bourbon. And then instead of getting ice, I accidentally hit the water tab on my fridge, and it was too late to notice that I just cut it with a bunch of water instead of adding my normal one piece of ice to it. So
Oh, I love it.
it's terrible, and now I have to drink it because there's some Glenlivet in here, and god damn it, that's not
Oh.
going to waste. I'd toss Bullet any day. I'm not tossing that shit. It's, how did I get here? What happened?
Steve, the only thing I've ever heard you be pretentious about in your whole life is that whiskey. I've ne- which I don't even like. Steve is not a pretentious person. He's not. But the way he talks about that booze.
Whiskey's great.
Whiskey. Yes, whiskey.
Anyway, what were you saying?
You think I fucking remember what I was saying?
Oh my
I
God.
forgot.
Oh boy. It's gonna be an interesting one to listen back to.
I have no fucking idea. Oh, I don't know.
What do you think are some? Oh, I got one. What do you
Okay,
think are
okay,
some
go ahead.
warning signs when you meet someone
Of
of someone who
Oh.
would be bad to date or bad to be in a relationship with?
They don't shave their armpits. Well, that's an obvious one. Of course.
Yeah, I've dated a girl like that.
I
Yep.
know you have.
Yep.
I know you
Yeah,
have.
you were right. You should have told me then.
It shows, well, one, I don't find it attractive, and two, it shows that they're probably a vegan, and
Yeah. Also, a big
They're
no-no
crazy.
is a vegan. Don't date a vegan. And here's why. I'm saying this for purely logistical reasons. It's gonna fucking suck because it's not like you're gonna meet in the middle. It's not like you're gonna say, all right, I guess we'll get rid of beef and we'll get rid of pork, but can we still have some chicken and maybe some fish? And she's gonna be like,
I'll be like,
all right, well, I guess in that case, make sure that you add additional kale on top every day, and we'll be fine. Like that's not how it works, right? It's you make all
would you
the
like half of
sacrifices.
this hamburger?
Yeah. You only have to eat half this time because I know you're vegan. It's not like it works that way. You change all of your behaviors if you're cooking together, and she gets to keep all of her behaviors. That's fucking terrible. Like that's the worst deal ever. So no vegans.
For me,
Or
okay,
convert them back to eating meat. You might not be able
For
to
me,
get them to eat bacon, but everything else. Like
Yeah. I could do the meat. You know, I eat a lot of vegetarian, but the thing I could never ever do, butter. I love cooking. I couldn't, and eggs.
Oh my god. Yeah.
I couldn't give up eggs.
You know, I got really into
and cheese.
There are a lot of things. Keep thinking, but you're making me
milk.
hungry. You're making me hungry. Milk is totally unnecessary. Milk is not something you need to keep in.
You don't like milk. I love milk.
I don't drink glasses of milk.
Okay. Warning signs.
What?
Of a relationship.
Oh, yeah. That's what we were talking about. So we've said someone who maintains themselves, who actually shaves, and also someone who is not a vegan. But wait, let me say back to the shaving thing. Here's another reason why it's important, right? It just shows you give a shit about yourself and how you look and maintainability. Like, I mean, I'm a guy. I do shave my chest like every 2 weeks. I shave everything else as well. Like I make sure to do that. Like I mean, obviously it takes a lot more work for women in terms of current social norms, but the minimum of like shaving is like, come on.
What, you shave your entire all of your pubic hair?
No, of course not.
Okay.
No. I don't shave all of that. No. I do trim it. Yeah. Oh, also, wait. I gotta give a tip that's gonna be super uncomfortable for people to hear, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Here's a tip. I'm gonna say what it is, and I'm gonna explain why.
Yes.
Shave your asshole.
Yes.
This, obviously Scott does, because he's bi, so he gets it. But here's the reason why, for purely logistical reasons. When you take a dump, if you don't shave your butt, and then you take toilet paper and you try to clean it, guess what? You're not going to get it all off. It's gross, and you're going to have dried up shit up your butt as you walk around in your boxers. So, not a good deal. This isn't even a sex thing. It's just purely practical.
Hygiene.
Everybody, shave your assholes. Don't be a dick. Don't be that person. It's just a public service announcement.
You never know when you have to have anal sex.
Also, not the issue that I have, but sure. I guess I don't. Maybe it will happen.
No.
Who knows?
It could happen. Well, maybe your neighbor, you go walk out and you get raped. But
yeah,
his neighbor's your neighbor. It's not that bad.
Man, but don't you need a lot of lube? I feel like that would be a very uncomfortable rape.
No, you can do it with spit.
Really?
Yeah, Steve, you can.
All right. Well,
let's not go into that.
All right. Other things. Warning signs.
They talk incessantly. And like you can't get a word in edgewise incessantly. And 2, they look at their phone.
Yes.
On the first date.
Yes. So
put your phone fucking away.
Yeah, that's so
on
important.
all dates.
Everyone, if you're having a face-to-face conversation with them, why are you pulling up a screen for some other conversation that's happening virtually? That's fucking bullshit, and it's also incredibly rude. What if, when I was talking to you, you pulled out a book and started reading the book, and then when I finished talking, you would just come up and half remember what I was talking about and said something? Incredibly rude. There's no reason why a phone is different. So anyway, yes. On that.
Actually, okay. Quick sidetrack. One of the reasons I like she does not use her phone. I also despise it because she never responds to me. But it's great.
Oh, yeah. That's another like tip. Don't try to do a bunch of texting on your phone, right? That's like I think another tip as a totally unqualified person that I can give. And I don't know. It seems like you text this girl.
I text more than you do.
A lot, yeah. And I don't think that's a good idea. I think that your conversation should progress in a physical space for the same reasons that I talked about before. You can't sexually progress in a texting conversation, but you're still progressing in terms of your comfort level. That's just a sheer sign that things are gonna end you in the friend zone. So you want to use texting as a tool to meet up and coordinate when you're gonna meet up with someone. So I almost never text, but also it's not fair for me to say that's why I don't text. The reason I don't text is because I'm a lazy person and I just don't enjoy doing it, and I treat text as just a way to communicate information just naturally. So, but I'd like to spin it and pretend that I'm doing something strategic.
Steve, when you text me like more than 2 lines, it's quite amazing.
Right? It's a sight to behold.
I know.
Have I ever texted you just a random thing? Like, oh, here's a thing to text Scott. I think he'd enjoy it.
No. You never text me that.
Yeah, I know.
It's not your...
I do think it's kind of bad that
It's not your MO.
I resisted so much because I have no social media.
Look, this is a lot. This is all from you.
Really?
And you used an emoji.
Yeah. Look at me. Growing up a little bit. Yeah.
That was like 3 text bubbles before.
Oh my god, that's so many.
That was you haven't gone to the stage of like multiple paragraphs in a text bubble. Because you can hit enter and get onto a new paragraph line.
All right. Other warning signs. I want to come back to your one about talking incessantly, kind of related to that.
You look like you wanted to say something about that.
Yeah. So related to that, it's not exactly the same thing, but someone who, when you're saying something serious, about yourself, and they switch the topic immediately to something about them, or they talk about themselves a lot without asking you about yourself.
Yeah.
That's a warning sign.
Yeah, it is.
Because I've dealt with that in the past, and it's always someone who's doing that is always very self-centered, and they're never going to treat you like an equal person in that relationship. So.
Right. I think those are the big ones. I also think, this is more like online. You don't look quite like your photos.
Yes.
That was maybe professional photography from your good angle, and then like in real life, like no. I think you want good photos for online, but you don't want them to be disingenuous, because that's just fucking annoying. It's just, and then like what? Then you spent $10 on a beer, because obviously you wouldn't have more than one, and to talk to this ugly hag.
What are your thoughts on paying for the date?
I do. If I really liked it, I will pay.
Do you think guys should pay for the date?
I don't think the guys should, but so a lot of the people, because I make more money, a lot of people I go on a date with make less than I do. So I'm like, I know I make more than you, so why wouldn't I pay for this? That's usually my mentality. If I'm like going with an investment banker, I probably wouldn't pay. You should pay for me, damn it.
Yeah.
So that's generally how I operate. It's not because I'm a man.
Ah, interesting. So I will always try to pay for everything. Always. So the reason I do it is if I enjoy hanging out with someone and I'm having a good time, and I think it's going to be both a show of appreciation, but also just a way to just make it not a hassle and make the whole process smoother, because I feel like I'm having a good time and I enjoy hanging out with that person. I'm always inclined to just pay for it, because it's just worth doing that to not have to deal with any dynamics around it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
So, just to clarify, it totally does. Just to clarify, so Steve and I make, in terms of like people our age, this average demographic, I think we're more towards the top. Well, you're probably in the top 10%. I may be in the top 25%.
Probably something like that, yeah.
Something like that. So like, that's, so Steve can do it more than I can, but I can as well. It's more, we can do that. A lot of people, that's not even an option.
Yeah, no, it's important to address that.
to do that at all. Like 75% of America, it's like, no, I couldn't pick up $100 tab, and in my case, it'd be a, $30 tab, $40 tab.
And to be clear,
a lot of people can't do that.
I think we're both saying that it's not necessarily like a gender thing either.
Yeah.
Not necessarily.
No, absolutely. It's also a class that if you make a lot of money, and if both of you make, like one person pays for it, it's not going to break the bank. Yeah. But if you are lower income, you have to think a lot harder about how you split, or I shouldn't even say lower income. I hate this country. Like, we're both making more than the median. Like, if you have median income, like, you have to really consider how you do that.
But it's not just with dates either. It's in general, I think, because a lot of times, I don't know, it's interesting kind of going from not having, and I don't mean, I grew up, I was very lucky in terms of how I was able to grow up, but being in, just out of college and working a minimum wage job or moving from that to being in grad school and getting not a lot of money for 20 hours of work. It's kind of, it's important to remember how much more money actually matters in those cases. And you can be empathetic and just kind of realize like, hey, it's going to be a lot harder for one person to pay versus another person. And for me now, because I'm lucky enough that I somehow got to the place that I'm at now, it's like I might as well just pay for it and avoid and make it just not another hassle, I guess. I don't know. It's weird kind of nowadays where I just remember before when I would think a lot about like how much a meal costs and all of that, and these days it's almost like within a margin of under $20, it's like whatever, like I don't even think about it anymore. And that's a
Right.
really big shift, and that's
That's a
something
big shift.
that I definitely felt like I wanted, especially given how the way I grew up and everything. So
Yeah. 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 Well, I think it's right, understandable, right? I mean, we're slightly different levels, but back in undergrad, I would think a lot, even like $1 meant something,
yeah,
and it was. But now $1 is more like, for me, maybe 50 cents, and maybe for you it's more like 25 cents.
yeah.
And I'm like, it's definitely like the more you make it, the value of it gets
Yeah.
less. The value of the money gets less.
I gave,
right?
as a joke, I gave $2. He offered this first, so this wasn't me being a dick and throwing money. I gave $2 to my roommate. We were at this fish market down by the wharf in DC, to go up to this random girl and ask her if she wanted his hush puppies, and he had leftover hush puppies that we had ordered, like someone waiting in line there. He was talking about doing it, and he said, if you give me $2, I'll do it. So I was like, fine, go for it. And I thought it was hilarious. Totally an awesome use of my money. But it's also something that probably
Not have
probably
done.
4 years ago, I definitely would have been like, no, I want to keep my $2. That's a dumb thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting.
And he
Actually, so
did it. It was great.
He did it?
It was so funny.
Dating. I actually want to talk about, so related to dating, thinking about so for me, a date, like a first date,
What
is
are the
a
boundaries,
bar.
labels? Yeah.
A second date is an activity, like which museum. I might go to the museum, something like that,
Mm-hmm.
a cultural thing. Third date, maybe, I don't know, another activity. Fourth date, it could be like to the opera, like, or a really nice restaurant, like a $200 meal, and
Wow.
maybe not that much, but like, I would take it. I would take the bill and it'd be $150, something like that. And like, that would be for someone I really was very, very interested in.
Mm-hmm.
But then a lot of people, like, a first date is, and I don't know, maybe this will sound classist or racist or something, but like, you go to McDonald's, or you like go take a walk, or you like do something. Depending on your socioeconomic level, you might go to McDonald's, because I've seen people at McDonald's for a first date. And it's just really the whole dating is like where you go and what you do.
So the first
So
thing I want
different.
to say about this is that, having not been in the dating scene for 2.5 years, and mind you, the 2.5 years that pushed me, that in which I was actually, like a functional adult in a sense, because before that I was supporting myself, but I was in grad school, and so I was poor, right? Like pretty poor. Like, I haven't been dating since I can afford a fourth date fancy dinner, right? Like, since the point at which I can actually afford to go on that kind of a date, I have not been dating. Like,
But okay, let me
so my opinion might be a little bit off here.
Okay,
but,
what's your opinion?
But my opinion is this: I think that there's something really nice about just going for a walk for the first date, or doing something, that's not necessarily going to be a lot of money. So you said like a second date at some kind of activity, like you go to a museum or something like that. I mean, a free museum, like why not, right?
Yeah.
That would be great, right? You don't
Right.
even really have to spend that much. Or just something really casual, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing, right? Most of the girls that I've ever hooked up with, I had kind of hung out with before, so the progression was always super casual. It would often just be like, oh, we were hanging out with some other mutual friends, and then I invited you over just to have another drink or something like that, right? And then it kind of progressed that way. And so I don't really have an assessment of what the seriousness progression is, but I think at the end of the day, if you're finding things that you think, oh, I'm kind of interested in doing this thing. It might be dumb. It might be really cool. If that is, like, I really wanted to check out this restaurant. It seemed nice. And I want an excuse to... Yeah, I know. The sirens. And I want an excuse to go there. Then sure, it can be that. But it can also be something dumb like for me, I'm like... I was thinking, I just really want to go to karaoke. Let's find some people to go karaoke, right? Or do something like that. I think as long as you're doing those kinds of activities, I don't think the amount of money really matters.
It doesn't, but Steve and I have very different upbringings.
Yeah.
I think, and my upbringing. So, my mom came from a pretty wealthy family in New England, and she's a teacher now. So my family does not have a lot of money. We're very like middle class. But she grew up in a really wealthy area. Her dad worked for Mobil Oil. Her mom didn't work. His dad was like an executive at some level. And she came out to Washington to marry my dad and to get away from all that money. But she brought, my dad is he was low class, very low income. His family was. But so she brought all of these like cultural things. Like we go to the theater all the time as a family. We go to the opera. We go to art museums. You have to pay like $50 a person to get into. Like it's nuts. And I grew up with that. And so like I like those things. So and for me a lot of times like there's something that locally I really want to do that costs money. It's like I don't want to do it by myself, but it's hard to take a friend with you. I mean I could take you.
Yeah.
But like other people, it would be very like odd, right? And
yeah.
But with a girl, it's very like, of course, you go and it's a place to go as a date.
Yeah.
Right? Like a really nice restaurant or to the opera, which I love, or the ballet.
Well, it sounds like you enjoy those things
like
though, which is part of what I was saying. Is like it doesn't really matter if it's super classy or not, but if you enjoy it.
Enjoy it.
And my background is that I grew up in a middle class family. But my mom actually grew up really, not very, but a little bit lower income. And, well, actually, it was pretty rough for her, if I'm being honest. But she grew up living very frugally. And because of that, that mentality has been pretty pervasive in her life, right? And so... My dad has a very successful career in the military, and he's worked up to colonel, and then he's worked at the embassy in Japan, the U.S. embassy in Japan, and now he works on, I'm not going to say the group, but he works on military relations between the two countries, and working in the military, he's made a reasonable income, but we then have that interplay between like being able to do certain things, like being able to go on trips around the world, but at the same time doing that because of how frugally we live, and a constant reminder and constant statements of being super careful with with our money. And the activities we did were pretty awesome as well. But even though we traveled a lot, I think that we didn't engage in as many quote unquote like upper class things. Like we didn't go to or organic stores or anything like that. I ate spam musubi most of the time we lived in Hawaii, you know. And so because of that, we had similar income levels growing up, and yet we have very different experiences growing up.
I think it's very different experiences growing up.
Yeah.
We actually had someone, one parent coming from a wealthier background, one from a poorer. But
well, actually, no. Neither of my parents
didn't.
came from wealthy backgrounds.
Oh,
Both
okay.
came from poor backgrounds.
Poor backgrounds.
Well, my dad came from a middle class background, but middle class, like really, really middle class. Like out in a small town, but near a big city, working around that area kind of deal. Like making middle class salary. I come on my dad's side from a bunch of men who went into the U.S. Army. So that's a lot of pressure. Anyway, we're getting off topic with the.
Steve, I think you look really good in a white navy dress suit, commandeering a destroyer. I think you just.
Dude, that sounds like a lot of fun. I won't
fit in really well. Imagine the technology involved in that, Steve. Maybe not as innovative as you want, but
No, in terms of my
it?
service to the country, one thing I would consider is working in one of the intelligence agencies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think you'd like that.
We're
getting way off topic.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be a really
Steve's knocking his beer can over, I hear.
I did, yeah, and I already finished that monstrosity of a
Damn!
whiskey I made.
Christ, man.
I know.
Are you high or drunk?
I'm definitely both.
Oh my god, I've only finished a bottle of wine.
You finished a whole... No, you didn't finish the whole bottle. That's a lie.
No, I finished a third of a bottle.
You gotta catch it up.
I know, I'm sorry.
I'm very drunk, apparently. Yes, I am.
So this podcast went way off the rails.
Yeah, we're already at 2 hours.
I want to say, I think, and I haven't thought about this before, but this conversation helped me realize that dating life is so based on your upbringing as much as it is the technology available to you.
Okay.
Like, I'm just kind of thinking about that now, and I think
how do you think dating affects the way I date is affected by my upbringing?
Well, the whole thing about experiences and doing things, less expensive, and I don't know, it's just like you came from that background, and my background, wanting to do more.
It's not necessarily that I don't do fancier things too. Like but
I don't know if you'd like the opera.
Yeah, exactly. Like I just don't
you would like it.
generally enjoy something like the opera. Like I just wouldn't.
Steve, the point of the whole reason behind opera is it shows.
I'd rather go to an outdoor concert. I don't know.
Opera shows that you pretend really, really, really hard that you care, and it's a devotion.
It sounds like baseball.
The amount you have to pretend you care, it's beautiful.
Oh my god. That's the most pretentious thing I've ever heard you say.
That was made up.
No, that's actually hilarious. Yeah, I don't.
Joking. That is another warning sign. Let me go back to that. If they can't joke or take your jokes, that's a bad sign.
Yes.
Immediately.
Yes.
Especially if they don't have a sense of humor.
Yeah. Oh, and another one. If it feels like it's difficult to keep conversation, you should try to figure out if they're ever doing anything to reciprocate or continue on to your conversation. Because if they aren't, that's a really bad sign, right? Sometimes it's you, right? But if it feels like it's really painful to continue the conversation, because they're not putting in the effort to make that go on. It signifies a lack of empathy, I think, and just kind of this expectation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know.
But we do it anyway. We date anyway, despite the troubles. And the thing is, it hasn't changed that much, has it? I mean, yes, the technology has changed around it. I think some of the sentiments around meeting a date have changed. But when you're actually on that date, that first date, and it's going well, you have that same feeling. And I think that's pretty universal, which is also kind of a nice thing I'm talking about dating. It's also very, very universal, depending on, I mean, well, maybe not if you're in Saudi Arabia, but other places. Where you have a little more freedom. Which is, I think, is kind of nice. And we approach the process in different ways, but we end up at the same place, either dead and alone or happily married with children.